Thank you guys all for joining us today. We are so excited to have you here. We are so excited to be going into year 2 of this project. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for participating last year. If you are a returning fellow, thank you for applying. If you are new, we are so grateful to be doing this. As former teachers, Mike and I talked about making a project. We're like, what do we want? What did we need when we were in the classroom? And so that's what we're trying to give to you. We're trying to support you in that way, trying to connect you with people who can support you as well. So we're going to do a quick overview. And then at between 5:30 and 6:15, we're going to do a couple of breakout sessions. And that's the time when you're going to have the opportunity to talk to the PD partners. We sent out some descriptions of the different organizations and some videos from them. So hopefully you have an idea of who you want to go see and who you want to talk to. If not, that's okay. Please feel free to pop in and out of rooms to ask a bunch of questions. There's going to be 3 sessions, but you know what? Don't feel like you need to stay for the whole 15 if you need to go talk to somebody else. And then we're going to spend the last 15 minutes kind of talking about timelines, questions, deliverables, all the stuff that you need to know for the project, because there are some differences between year 1 and year 2, which we have talked about a little bit before, but we're going to reiterate again, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Like Tiffany said, we'd rather over communicate than under communicate with you. So if my thing will advance, that would be great. There we go. So we've already kind of done our introductions. Ruth is not here tonight. As you may or may not know, Ruth is on family leave. She just had a baby. So we will be seeing her in a couple of months. We also have 2 student workers that you might be seeing information from, Barat and Patrick. Patrick posts a lot on the Facebook page. If you are not a member of our Facebook page yet, please feel free to join. There's a lot of information that goes out on that Facebook page, not just about the program, but about resources that we or our other partner organizations think you might be interested in. Free materials, grant information, other fellowships that you can double dip and will pay you more money, all kinds of things. So keep an eye out for that Facebook page. Just really quickly, we've got 3 distinct buckets for this program. We've got the measurement, which you will probably see information from UOEEE, a University Office of Evaluation and Educational Effectiveness. I swear their email address looks like spam. It's the most ridiculous thing, but you've got to keep your eye open for anything from them. Hopefully, everything will be managed through Airtable this year. And so we won't have to have UOEEE sending out a bunch of messages to you. But always just be aware, if you see UOEEE, it is from it's from ASU, it's from us. So we've got our STEM PD organizations. This is our STEM Ed ecosystem. They're the ones that are teaming with us to help support you. They're providing the professional development. They are a really great resource for you guys if you have questions about lesson plans, about what PD is going to count. They have a lot of information from us. You can always send an email to Tiffany at the STEM Teachers email address, but your STEM organizations also are in the loop and can help you out as well. And then the third part and the biggest part are the teachers. That's you, the fellows. And we are so grateful that you are committed to increasing STEM opportunities for your students. We think that you are very special to just have applied for this, and we appreciate you so much. When we made the program, we looked at the National Academy's call to action, and we said, how can we apply this to Arizona? What do we need to do to help Arizona teachers? They had 3 sort of action areas. What's the status of science and STEM education in our state, we needed to really establish some of those alliances, and those are our PD partners that are helping to work with us. And then we want to be pushing for better, more equitable science education. And so that's really what's driving the entire project. So this year, there are currently 410 fellows across Arizona. We have every county represented in the project. There's some new spots on the map we're very excited to welcome. And, we're going to talk a bit about the different PD requirements for this year and how it's changed and kind of what your options are being in all of these different spots around Arizona. So we're going to talk about what to do if you're really geographically distanced and how to get PD out to you or to make it accessible to you. And I just love this. This is just so cool. Like, this is a representation of the different fellows that we have all over the state and the different counties. And it's, fairly proportional. We tried to err on the side of outside of Maricopa and Pima County, honestly, and include people from everywhere around the state. You may have seen this already, but we can't stop showing this. We're so excited. We had 433 teachers fully complete. That is actually low. I think we're at 450 at this point. About 90,000 students that we've impacted. And we paid $2 million in stipends to teachers last year, which is very, very cool. We've got about 1,700 lesson plans that are currently up on our website. And you guys have done so many classroom activities, after school activities, contests and fairs, STEM nights, projects that we have been so excited to read about and see about. And we can't wait to see what you guys come up with this year. We say it every single time. You guys are the keystone species for getting our kids ready for the jobs of the future in Arizona. And we know how important you are, and we value you and we value your time, which is why we are paying you for STEM materials, to purchase STEM materials, paying you for your time, paying you for your expertise. And so we really appreciate you. So just big picture, we're trying to accelerate what's happening statewide. We know that there were a lot of challenges because of COVID, but even before COVID, we know the state of STEM in Arizona even before that. And so we are here to support you guys. So your role. We chose people, this is a slightly, hey, Mike, is this the correct distribution for year 2, or is this the year 1 distribution?
It's relatively identical.
Gotcha. We tried to flatten out the curve a little bit this year, get a few more lesson plans from the high school, a few more lesson plans from the primary grades to make the whole lesson plan archive be really useful for people. But we are still focusing in that 5 through 8 grade band. So a lot of the PD that you'll see is focused there, but not all of it. We have not forgotten about primary and high school. And we're also open to a lot of options, which we'll talk about as the presentation goes on. If you have not been to our website yet, this is the picture on the right here of the main page, and it has a ton of information. It has all kinds of stuff that we will be going over today. So if you haven't been there before, please utilize it as a resource. When we started the project last year, it was all cobbling together different, lists and documents, trying to get enough information to everybody. But now the website is up and running. It's beautiful, you guys. I'm so excited about it. It's great. So please use it as a resource, and share it with your schools, share it with your coworkers, because it has a ton of stuff for everybody, not just fellows. So a couple of things for expectations for fellows for next year. You know that we are asking you to complete 30 hours of approved STEM professional development. Last year we talked about this, but we didn't make it an official requirement. This year it's actually written into your scopes of work as fellows, that we'll be turning in order to get your first payments to you, but that up to 10 hours can be online. We are asking that at least 20 hours should be in person. It can all be in person if you'd like, that's fine. We are prepared to be slightly flexible if your geography makes this just really utterly impossible, but we've talked to several of the people that are already, in different locations in the state. So we're really trying hard to bring PD out to you. And that's one of the things that you can do today as you sort of self-select which group you want to go talk to. If there's something really cool that you want to bring to your area and you think that your school would host or that your school would be interested, we can try and connect you with an organization to see if they are able to go out to you instead of having you try to drive somewhere. We would like to make this as painless on you as a fellow as possible. So a second change that we're doing this year is we are asking you to finish your first 10 hours by the end of December. There is a massive quantity of PD that happens in the fall. A lot of it is up on our website already. We'll be sending out more information as the organizations sort of finalize their schedules, but most schedules for the fall are set. And so most of it hopefully is up on our website or will be up there very shortly. Please take advantage. We don't want to get to the end of the summer and have to be struggling to pay people who have been waiting the entire year to turn in all of their stuff, because our funding ends September of 2024. And we need to make sure that everything is into the accounts payable at least 8 weeks before that. If you've emailed with Tiffany about payments and that sort of thing, and you're asking like, hey, when can I expect my first paycheck? It is 8 weeks and after it leaves our hands. If it shows up earlier than that, huzzah, wonderful. But that's kind of the expectation that we have to keep in our minds. So we're asking for 10 hours to be finished by the end of December. If that's not going to happen with anything, if you have something that happens in your life or extenuating circumstances and you need an extension for anything that I'm going to talk about today, please make sure that you give us a heads up. We are fine working with you, but we just need to know ahead of time. Second expectation, you are going to turn in 4 approved lesson plans or activities for the archive. I'm going to say activities. I'm going to say lesson plans, but it's whatever applies to what you are doing. Okay. And we're asking that, again, you turn in those first 2 lesson plans by the end of December so that we can have hopefully get those second payments rolling in the spring. And then the third expectation is that you are doing some sort of STEM project, some STEM activity, some STEM lessons, something STEMmy with the kids in your community or at your site. And we've read so many cool ideas in your applications. So we're really excited to see what you decide to do this year. If you have to change your plans, that's fine. We understand that plans change. We have asked you to write a plan so that we know that you're thinking about it. But after you go to your PD, you might see something so cool that it really sort of changes your trajectory. Or you get in to the project with your students and you go, oops, nope, not this group, not this year. We'll try again later, right? We understand those sorts of things happen. You have to be flexible as a teacher. We want to be flexible for you. We just want you to be, we asked you to think about it because we want you to be planning for it. Okay. Mike's gesturing to me from the other room. So I'm going to just keep going. We are also asking you this year specifically to provide feedback for the program evaluation. When you accepted your slot as a fellow, you said whether you agreed to participate in the research or not. We really hope that you participate in the research. It is not a requirement, but we really, really, really hope that you participate. That does not, however, mean that you can't fill out the surveys or any of the paperwork that we send to you. If you have not consented to have your information used in research, that's fine. You will not be used in research whatsoever. But we do need you to complete the surveys and the different paperwork that the Office of Evaluation or that we send to you. We promise if you have not consented, it will not be used in research. But it is separated out as part of your third milestone this year. That we need to have your program surveys, end of your report, all of your paperwork in order to receive the final $500. So that was a lot of information. Some of it the same from last year, some of it new. But at the bottom, you'll see here, I've linked the rules and the FAQ about ASAP. We're going to share this with everybody in the chat kind of at the end of the webinar. And this is a great resource for you as well. I'm sure that this is going to throw everything off, but you'll be able to see here, hopefully, that there are a ton of questions that we've answered. So if there's something that you're still wondering about, or you leave the webinar today and say, oh, I wish I'd asked that question, it's here for you. We've got a lot of answers. We've spent a lot of time updating our documents from last year. Please give us some grace if you find something that's a remnant from last year and just let us know so that we can update it. Because with the number of process documents, the number of things that we send out to fellows, I'm sure that a date or a procedure hasn't been changed somewhere. So thank you so much for your grace with that. Okay, STEM projects. It has to be STEMmy. It has to affect kids. We want you to think in terms of sustainability. We know that some schools need pencils, paper, those kinds of things. And that's certainly an option, but what are things that you can use or your school can use for multiple years down the road? Your supply purchases do not have to perfectly match your projects. That's a question that we kept getting a lot last year. And no, we want you to purchase what you need. We just need you to turn in $2,000 in receipts, not $2,500. There is an extra $500 in that first check for incidentals. Those incidentals can be conference registration, PD registration, whatever else you want. You do not need to turn in receipts for that. That is your money. I will say that the initial intention of that those funds, I'm not allowed to give you tax advice, but I will say that it might be a good idea to hold on to some of that $500 for that time of year. I'm just throwing it out there. Can't give you tax advice. Moving on. You can create a project in any format that you like, whatever it is that suits your needs and your students' needs. STEM night, curriculum overhaul, class project, experiment, club, camp, whatever else. If you are stuck and you don't know what you want your STEM project or your STEM activities to be, the PD organizations are your best resource for that. If you don't already have a plan, There are many of our organizations that will help you figure out what that plan is, or that you will go to their PD and you're like, this is so cool. This is what my plan is now. Edison robots are so amazing. This is what I'm going to do. STEM plus C teaching me about aeronautics. So cool. This is what I'm going to do. Okay. So any questions about your project? PD organizations are a great first step. And Mike and I can also meet with you as well. The lesson plans, if you haven't been to the website, this is what the lesson plan archive looks like. It allows you to filter for your results. It's very cool. I'm going to let Jonathan take a few minutes here and talk about lesson plans. So Jonathan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Amanda. So our lesson plan requirements are going to be very similar to year one. So if you were in the program last year, there's not much of a change there other than having that deadline that 2 lessons are due by the end of first semester. Aside from that, there have been some really good questions already about lesson plans. So I want to go over some of the things that I've seen, maybe that there's been the most confusion about. The basic idea here is that every fellow is required to submit a total of 4 lesson plans. Those 4 individual, unique lesson plans. There's oftentimes questions about unit and working with other teachers. Both of those things are great, and we've had many teachers submit lessons that work together as a unit. However, they're still required to be separate lesson plans. So you can submit 4 lesson plans, and it can be part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. That's fine. That's great, because as a teacher, especially a new teacher, I can come to the database and I can find that, and I can have a whole unit planned out for me. So that's one thing to keep in mind. We've also had teachers work together on lessons. And again, that's wonderful because you're bringing in, double the expertise. But then if you're 2 people, you need 8 lessons total. And you can put both names on all 8, and I'll give credit for 4 of them to one of you and 4 to the other. That's fine. Or you can just list one author, even if you both wrote on it. Again, very flexible, but every individual needs to have 4 lesson plans to their name in order to get credit toward the requirements of the grant. The lesson plans themselves follow a Google slide deck format. Amanda, do you know if either I can share or if you can pull up our submission page? So when you go to our website and you go to the STEM lesson plan section, there's a page for you to submit your lesson plan. And there's 2 links right here at the top. One of them is a template, which is basically blank, and you fill in your content. And one is a sample lesson plan that's already filled in, so you can get an idea of what we're looking for. And so it's a basic lesson plan, right? You're going to have your title, you're going to have notes and materials for a teacher who's going to be using this. And I will repeat the fact that we hope and we know there's a lot of teachers in Arizona without a lot of experience. So the more detail you can provide to a new teacher using your lesson plan, the more likely it is to have a positive impact on students. And so listing out the materials you use or any nuances to the activity can be really helpful. And that goes on the notes and materials page. Of course, there's a place for standards, there's a place for objectives, there's a place for kind of like an introduction, whether you do bell work or something to engage the kid, the hook, anything that you're using to kind of get the lesson started. These things don't have to be in a specific order, but all of these components do need to be included. Perhaps the most important part of the lesson plan is the hands-on activity section. Hands-on activity section, like it sounds, this is a student-facing activity. It could be digital, but more often than not, it's a physical activity that students are doing. They're engaged in it. Basically, what we're looking for is that we don't want a lesson that is 95% teacher talk and lecture-based, because we want our students to be engaged in the doing of science. It doesn't mean you can't have vocabulary or notes built into the lesson, but the hands-on activity really should be what the students are doing to be engaged in the learning. So that's really an important piece. In addition to that, you'll want to have a section on assessment. These are suggestions to a teacher who's going to adopt your lesson plan and make it their own. But how do you assess it formatively, summatively, whatever you use, whether it's a quiz or it's a CER or it's KWL and they're filling in that L part, what they learned. It can be whatever you use. There's no right or wrong answer there, but we're looking for recommendations for a teacher who looks at your lesson. And the very last slide is a section on differentiation. This is again really important for newer teachers who might not know how to take your lesson and adapt it to make it a little bit more accessible to students who need more support and make it more challenging for students who are ready to move on and have it extended. And so anything you can suggest there is really valuable to those future teachers who will be using your lesson plan. And so that's definitely something that we want to have in every lesson. In terms of outstanding lessons, we actually have added a new tag to our database called outstanding lessons, and you can search by it. There's only a handful on there so far. We're going back and re-tagging some old lesson plans, but there are some really fantastic ones on our database. So I definitely encourage you to take a look and search through there for some things that you might be interested in learning more about and doing with your students. And we're going to continue to refine the database as we go forward. So there's a lot of great stuff on there. A couple of other notes, things that I notice most often where I have to respond to a teacher and say, hey, this is great, but one, these are STEM lesson plans. They're required to have at least two areas of emphasis from STEM, which means it can't be just math or just science. So when I look at a lesson plan, one of the first things I check for is like, is this showing that STEM is inter and transdisciplinary? Because we know the research backs this up. Students learn science and math better when they're integrated, when we have that transdisciplinary nature, when we integrate things like engineering, computer science, robotics, those sorts of ideas with our state standards. And so we definitely need to have that. That's probably the number one reason lesson plans haven't been included on the website and been published is because they come in and they're siloed. They're just one content area. And so that's really a focus for this year is to make sure that you're highlighting at least two areas. I mean, more than two is even better. That's great, but two is the minimum. And so definitely consider that. The second one is standards. Standards can be tricky, but we have a terrific set of Arizona science standards. If you have questions about how to read them, how to use them, please reach out to me. I'm happy to work with you on it. And there's some fantastic PDs being offered that cover that and the three-dimensional nature of these lesson plans. And so we really want to make sure that the lessons are submitted with a standard that connects to the activity being done and the grade level selected. Sometimes I'll have like a seventh grade lesson and it'll have a second grade standard because that's when that piece of content is taught. Rather than doing that, you can write it as a second grade lesson plan to tie to that standard. That's fine. It doesn't have to be your grade level rather than it being mismatched. If you have any questions about educational technology standards, we have fantastic ones. We have great computer science standards. We do not have terrific engineering standards, unfortunately, but there are options there. You can find a science standard that fits and then emphasize the science and engineering practice as well. And then there's next gen science standards, which include some engineering standards in there. And then we have some high school ones as well. So these are all options when you're submitting a lesson, and you can reach out to me with those further questions. Yeah, so the CTE engineering standards for high school are actually really simple, and they can be a great way to show that you're integrating engineering into those. So you can reach out to me, and I can give you links to all the standard documents. They're all on the ADE website, and you can actually search by those different content areas in our lesson plan database. So that's definitely something you can do as well. So those are the two big things that I've been noticing a lot of is either a lesson is incomplete or it's only one content area. And those are often the reasons that they're not then published and often sent back to you for revision before being accepted. Okay? So again, if you go to our website and you go to the lesson plan section for submitting a lesson plan, there's a link to an example and there's a link to a template, which is going to be where you can just take the template, make a copy of it, and fill in your text, your pictures. And that's it. And you turn around and submit that link. And so the plan is for me to have a lesson plan training later this month. So I'll get on the calendar with the rest of the ASAP crew and I'll be offering that and we'll, work toward recording it. That way, any of the more detailed questions or specific questions about standards, you can then, shoot my way at that time, or you can send me an email before then. But we do have the advantage this year of having about 1,200 lessons on the database already. That's a good question. That would be an Amanda Mike question. If the 1 hour training on ASAP lesson planning counts toward their PD hours. No, doesn't count. Sorry,
If
but it'll be
if
worth
it
it if you
doesn't
have
have
questions.
If it doesn't have a certificate, it doesn't count. That's our
More of
mantra for this year.
an education PD rather than a STEM PD.
Right. Yeah. STEM focus. All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it. We will definitely be hearing more from Jonathan later in the coming months. I'm going to talk really quickly about your PD because we're going to get into these breakout sections. So we'll talk a little bit more about this slide after we do our breakout sessions. I'm going to come back to this one and kind of talk you through all your options. We have some links that got sent out to you before this meeting. It's called the Partners Long Description and Contact Information. We also have videos for a lot of the programs. And then all of our partners are always listed on our website. And our events are also posted on the website. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more later. We'll talk about how to use the calendar as well. And I think we might even have a couple of partners that need to be updated to this slide. We also have a couple of state agency partners that we're going to be working with this year. That's going to be like a cohort within the fellowship. There's a couple of those that are going on. We have math teachers that are doing one. Water's doing a cohort. So there's a lot of different options. Mike and I will be announcing office hours in the coming weeks. So if you still have individual questions that you want to ask us, then that is a great time for that. You can also contact the organizations individually. You can look at the videos that they put out. You can look at the explanations. Lots of information there. I want to go ahead and give us a quick wrap up because I know it's 6:30 and I value your time. So I want to be done here, but I'm going to need about 5 minutes. So I apologize. I just wanted to go over really quickly. Please take advantage of the 20 plus partner organizations for your PD. You can choose other organizations that suit your needs. If they're outside of ASAP, then they need prior approval. We would really love if you are particularly in those middle grade bands that we are specifically focusing on with this grant, that you stick with our partner PDs because it's just, there's so many options here for you. And a lot of the questions that we get about, oh, can I go to this PD? Can I go to this PD? A lot of it we've seen is pay to play. It costs you an awful lot of money, and we are not always certain about the quality. So if there's something that really fits your needs, like I was talking with the math teachers, the physics teachers, a couple of different groups that maybe have more specific needs, we can talk more about that. But we have a lot of partner organizations. I was just talking with somebody about the technology, and that's a little bit more specialized, but we, particularly if in those main grade bands, there's a lot of options for you. Attend conferences this fall. There is one conference will get you at least half of your hours usually. College credits count. PD provided by your school district does not count unless it's from one of our partner organizations. So if you invite an organization to come to your school and do PD, that counts because it's from one of our partners. But the PD put on by your district doesn't count. The only exception to that, obviously, they're not listed as a partner, but Arizona Department of Education, if they're coming and doing three-dimensional learning with you or any of those things, of course, those count. National boards, all of those things, those count. The PD is listed on the calendar on our website. You can search by topic, you can search by location, you can search by grade level, you can search by date. Please look here early and often, see what's there now, but also check back in a couple of weeks, check back in the spring, check back before the summer, because more things are posted all the time. Then for your milestones, we are in the process of getting everybody paid for milestone 1. There is, in theory, and hopefully very little that you have to do for anything remaining for milestone 1. Everything should be completed based on your application and all of the paperwork that you've been doing signing up as a supplier. Milestone 2, by the end of December, your first 10 hours and your first 2 lesson plans. And that will be $1,000 when you complete milestone 2, hopefully sent out in January. Again, think 6 to 8 weeks. So maybe by the end of January, maybe by February. So keep that in mind. And then milestone 3, those last 2 lesson plans, your additional 20 hours of PD, and also making sure that you complete your project report. And we'll talk more about those things as we get there. So it's $3,000 for your PD and your lesson plans, and then an additional $500 for all of the paperwork that will come at the end. We'll talk a little bit more about project reports later. I've put some information in here. When we send out this, you can take a look at it yourself. This is the QR code for the survey. It should be on our website. It is here. You can take this now. If you go to a PD from one of our PD partners, they will also post this, but we need a survey from every PD opportunity that you attend. So if you turn in a certificate for it, you need to turn in a review for it, even if it's not one of our partners. It's easier if it's one of our partners. Go ahead, Mike.
So one thing I want everyone to realize on the call tonight is that, ASAP is also about research, and we need the research, and we need it bad. And so please, please, please get in the habit of whenever you attend PD, whether they're in network or even out of network, take the QR code with you, scan it, do the survey, do it on the spot, turn it in, and that will help us immensely. The more data we can gather this year, the better. And we're using that data to do some really robust things for all of us at the end of the day. And so we would really, really appreciate your help in making sure that gets done. Over.
There is a link in here to important dates. It's linked from our website, and it's also here on this presentation that you're going to receive. These dates are flexible. It's a living document. Please understand that. We will be talking about the membership that you are eligible for at closer to the end of this second year. Those of you who were in year 1 had the option of receiving this at the end of the summer, and we'll do it again next summer. And so I am going to stop here. It's 6:36. I really appreciate you all. And we are going to hang out and answer questions. If you want to stay and listen, that is awesome. But please remember our website, our Facebook page. We have an Instagram now. And as always, you can email us at the STEM Teachers email address, stemteachers@asu.edu.